You heard it 3 times. Jesus came into their midst and said, "Peace be with you." That peace permeated the life of the whole church. And I think it allowed Thomas to go from that state of unbelief to the proclamation, "My Lord and my God." He put his worries aside. He trusted. He then received the gift of peace. And that peace evidently permeated the house churches, the early community, made up of believers who we heard gather in the temple area, and then they gathered in their homes and broke bread together. I'm reminded of how they had a beginning, of how the members of this parish in 1978 had their lives changed and challenged. 300 households were asked to move from St. Agnes and Nativity and to form a new faith community named after the first American-born saint, Elizabeth Ann Seton Parish. If you're a charter member, would you stand up, please? Let's acknowledge them, shall we? They were a brave folks. I don't know if you realized it or not, but like Thomas, you had to make an act of faith in Christ and join forces to become a new community. Tom Ringsred, who was an usher here forever, one of the charter members, he just died earlier this month. He loved to tell the story of the truck that he and a couple of other guys got, and they drove down to the Fox Valley, and they went to various churches and chapels, I guess, and begged, borrowed, and stole religious items. And they said the truck was overflowing as they brought it back and finally had furnishings for the new church. And the first place of worship, the laundry room of the Sisters of Our Lady of Charity. That's a slide of it. Just 3 blocks north of here, just of this present church, in what is now owned by the Oneida tribe. And the baffles here above our sanctuary, the architect incorporated them not only for the light dispersion, but because I understand in that laundry room they had baffles hanging down to hide the pipes. And so it's a reminder whenever you look up there of our heritage. So, like the first Christians who developed the early church, like our charter members, we're at a point in our history where we're going to embark into a new era as we prepare to welcome a new pastoral leader on July 1st. Now let me give you the context. There are about 157 parishes in our diocese. When I was ordained, I think there were 204. But with closures and mergers, it's down to 157. We have in our diocese right now about 45 active priests in assignments. Do the math. We're getting 5 ordained, which is wonderful, in July, and 3 of us are retiring. In addition, we've got about a dozen religious order priests like Norbertines and Franciscans who serve. That doesn't add up. So to cover this, 2 things have been happening in our diocese. First, Bishop Ricken has brought over 20 international priests to serve in parishes. And then all the way back to Bishop Maida, Cardinal Maida now, in 1986, we started the tradition, which is allowed in canon law, of having pastoral leaders lead the parish. Lay women, lay men, religious women, and permanent deacons. So what Bishop Ricken and the Personnel Board does is that they study each parish where there's going to be a transition. They look at their gifts, they discern their needs, and they try and say, what's the best option for each parish? And Bishop Ricken knows what a strong and vibrant parish this community is. And Father Luke Ferris, who was here February 6th for the open meeting, a number of you were there, he came away with the impression that was very real of what a vibrant community this is and the openness that this community has. So the decision that was made, and I just found out about this a couple weeks ago, and I've kept my mouth shut as I was asked to do, as with the many changes that are being announced in parishes throughout the diocese this afternoon, the decision was made to provide a model of leadership and service for our parish that combines priestly service for the sacraments with the assignment of a pastoral leader for our parish. Sister Marla Clerks. She's a member of a new Genesis, it's called, a religious institute. Sister Barbara, would you just stand up for a moment? Sister Barbara, a member of our parish, lives a couple blocks from here. She's a member of the same community as Sister Marla, a new Genesis. So if you want to find out what that's all about, catch her after Mass. So this group, a new Genesis, was instituted by Bishop Wysislo in the 1980s. And so Sister Marla, one of that group, has been named pastoral leader for us. There she is. It's pronounced like clerks in the store, only it's CX at the end. She was born and raised in Jasper, Minnesota. She was trained first as a veterinary technician, but then went back to college and studied and became an elementary and a high school teacher, and served in schools in northern Wisconsin. She's got a master's degree in pastoral studies from St. Paul Seminary in Minneapolis, the same kind of degree that I have. And she has served in parishes in northern Wisconsin until she became a parish director or pastoral leader in our own diocese. So for the first 8 years of her ministry as a pastoral director, she was up in Florence. Can't get farther north than that. In fact, you'd arrive at by going into Michigan and then circling on down. For the past 8 years, she's had a pretty complex ministry. She has served as pastoral leader in Gillett, Suring, and then in the mission at Chute Pond, about 45 miles north of here. Sister Marla is a talented and brilliant and dynamic woman, and she's known widely among the priests of this diocese and highly respected. So what's she going to do? She is going to be responsible for the pastoral leadership of this parish, including serving the spiritual and the pastoral needs of all of you. She'll oversee the preparations of our worship. She'll give reflections at our masses. She'll work with and oversee our wonderful staff, administer the parish, including, of course, the signing of checks and reports. I must admit to you, I was very surprised at the decision. as I suspect many of you are at this very moment. But I truly believe she's going to be a great fit for the people of this parish. In my former position, before I came here, when I was vicar for ministers or vicar for clergy, all of the pastoral leaders reported to me, and then from me to the bishop. So I got to know all of them very, very well, and highly respected and enjoyed and liked them, and especially when they invited me to their parties. But if I had to, once the surprise I got over the surprise, if I had to pick one of those pastoral leaders to come here, my choice would be her. And of course, for those of you who have been around for a while, having good, strong religious sisters in this community is nothing new. Remember the dedication of Sister Caroline Sullivan? She was here for a number of years. And then everybody speaks about Sister Madonna Schmelsley, and then Sister Jerry Krautkramer, who, by the way, after she left here, became a pastoral leader and is currently serving, I think, in Kellnersville and Cooperstown. I think we're going to be blessed to have her with us. But now you say, what about the Mass? What about the sacraments? So the priests that will be here for us are called sacramental ministers. And during the period of July through December, you're going to have a delightful Irish senior priest who grew up in downtown Green Bay, Monsignor Jim Feely. The Y is missing, F-E-E-L-Y. He's currently serving as sacramental minister in Hortonville, but he wants to be closer to home. And so then backing him up, whenever that's needed, will be Father Tim Shocox, who is leaving his pastoral duties in De Pere come July 1st. And you recognize him, I'm sure. He's a Norbertine. So now, after January 1st, Bishop Robert Morneau, who just announced that he's retiring from Resurrection Parish, so I said 3 were retiring, that makes 4, okay? He'll become your regular sacramental minister. You know him from confirmations, from his fantastic reputation as a speaker, a writer, a poet, a lover of people. So he will be here, and then when he has to go and not be here because of confirmations or something, I believe Father Jim Feely then will be subbing for him. And just by the way, the diocese has asked me to serve as a sacramental minister in another parish where they're getting a new pastoral leader. I can't say where it is yet because all the pieces aren't in place. So I'll be going through the same transition as you folks are. Now, in the background, besides this, there'll also be what's called a priest moderator who will act as a mentor to Sister Marla and who acts as an official signatory for certain legal things that happen in the parish. He'll be pretty much in the background. He may have a mass here once a year, come to a parish council meeting or so, but he's pretty much in the background. And for those of you, who's here from Nativity Parish? Some of you here from Nativity? Oh, good, I'm glad you're admitting it. Great, good. So, guess what? Your new pastor is Father Michael Ingold, who has been a wonderful pastor down in St. Margaret Mary in Neenah, and his home is from St. Edward and Isidore out in Flintville. And his mom served there with my best friend Dave Kasparik for decades. So, the model that you are going to be experiencing has been very effective in lots of parishes and dioceses throughout this country and Canada. It's new to us, It's not new to a lot of people. And I think that this is a real vote of confidence in you and in the leadership of this parish, that the bishop sees this can be a good move for us. Once again, it's going to put Elizabeth Seton Parish on the forefront of evolving parish leadership. We're going to be the largest parish in the diocese that has ever had a pastoral leader. Now, don't be surprised if you're a little bit uncomfortable with all of this, because it's not what you're used to, not what you grew up with. It's going to take some time to adjust. But we're going to be just like the early church, who gathered together and tried to form a community with the implications of what it means to have the risen Christ in their midst. Their lives were sure changed. I suspect ours, yours, will be too. Perhaps it's going to take, in the midst of the shock or the surprise or whatever you're experiencing, the same taking a deep breath as St. Thomas took when he said, "My Lord and my God." After I found out that Marla was coming, I invited her here on a late Sunday afternoon when I knew nobody'd be around. And she had never been here. And so I took her through the rectory where she'll be living and through the parish here. She is so excited to come. And she prays for you already in this time of transition, and pray for her because she's telling the people up north at this very moment that she's leaving. The Church of St. Elizabeth Ann Seton is going to be recreated once again. So charter members, hang on and lead the way. So should we have a town meeting? As I walk back there, say something to the people next to you. Just react a little bit to the person next to you. What you thinking?